Not cut out for heroics? A Boku no Hero fan fiction written by Ended Flames on AO3. Read by Cole. Chapter 42. The Truth about the Todoroki family. The black screen fades to show Ryoku standing in his usual space for filming videos. There are posters for Hawks, Present Mike, and the Wild Wild Pussycats behind him. There is a second of silence before he starts talking. Hello everyone! Thank you for watching this video, Ryoku says, making a wide gesture with his hands. This isn't a normal video, as you might already be able to tell. Before we begin, this video contains some triggering topics. This full list is in the description of the video, but for anyone who doesn't want to read that, here's a list. Ryoku pauses to allow viewers to read the list that has appeared beside him in clear white font with a green outline. Trigger warnings, mentions of descriptions of abuse, graphic images and descriptions of violence, mentions of and descriptions of neglect. Talk about death and sensitive topics surrounding it. Descriptions and images of fire and burns. These are the main warnings. The full list, please read the description. After enough time to read the list, Ryoku resumes talking. Due to the nature and contents of this video, it is likely to be taken down very soon after me posting this, meaning that you're most likely not watching directly from my channel. However you found this video, I'd like to make sure everyone knows that everything said here is true. I have not made up or forged anything in this video. Please respect those in this video. If you know them personally or see them around, this may be difficult to watch, but remember that it was even harder for them to talk about. If I see anyone in real life or on the internet using this video for malicious purposes, harassing the people who this video directly concerns, or posting rude or disrespectful comments, I will not hesitate to block you or otherwise ruin your life. Oh, and if you happen to be a member of Endeavor's legal team or PR teams, parts of the Hero Commission, or anyone else in a place of power, please sit down and watch this before you take it down. The video cuts to a similar scene, except the angle is different, as noted by the new set of posters in the background. Miss Choke, Kamui Woods, Miruko, and Gang Orca. Ryoku takes a deep breath before beginning to speak once again. We're going to start with the lighter stuff here, Ryoku said bluntly. Endeavor is a terrible hero. A picture appears to Ryoku's right, showing a graph with Endeavor's average civilian and villain casualty count, shown with a blue and red line respectively. The graph per year since his first debuted now. The graph shows both lines going up exponentially, the civilian casualty count rising significantly above the villain casualty count. As for the year before this, the villain casualty count set at 136, and the civilian casualties set at 674. As you can clearly see, Endeavor takes a lot of civilian lives while carrying out his hero work. But you're probably thinking, it's the same for most heroes, right? Well, you'd be mistaken. The picture of the graph changes to one for Hawks, whose numbers are consistently close to zero. Unlike Endeavor's graph, Hawks isn't rising exponentially either. There are just a few years with more or less casualties. The graph changes to one of Best Jeanist, who had a similar pattern to Hawks, albeit a few more casualties, but nothing even close to Endeavor. This continued for the rest of the top 10. The only hero who even nears Endeavor's number was, surprisingly, All Might. The number one's graphs looked scarily similar. The numbers had risen similarly around 5 years ago, when they fell dramatically. All Might's numbers had been in the 90s for villains and 200s for civilians, though, barely even on Endeavor's heels. It's clear that Endeavor's casualty count in both villains and civilians is much higher than any other hero's. Ryoku has a grim expression on his face as he speaks. This is because the number 2 prioritizes the villain's extermination over any civilian on the scene. He doesn't care how many civilian lives he takes, as long as the villain is detained. It's not right to use full force on a shoplifter stealing a loaf of bread in the middle of a busy street, is it? The video switches to a clip from a security camera looking over a high street. Civilians are going in and out of shops and cafes all along the busy road. A short man with a mutation quirk runs from a shop carrying a sad loaf of bread. Another man comes running out of the shop, yelling after him. Suddenly, there's a blast of fire. Civilians run in every direction to get away from the heat as Endeavor chases the shoplifter, sending fireball after fireball in his direction, not caring that some stray off course into the crowd of people who have gathered. The clip fades out and is replaced by the man's ID. A clear photo of his face showed that he had messy brown hair and kind blue eyes, despite the large, scary-looking alligator fangs protruding from his jaw, which is also covered in scales. His name was Yokota Tamotsu. He was 23 years old. The video cuts back to Ryoku and he starts speaking again almost instantly. I looked into this man. Tamotsu came from a poor family. His sister needed urgent surgery because of a life-threatening disease. He was simply trying to feed his family, since all their funds went towards his sister's medical cost. He ended up dying in hospital from multiple third-degree burns, bone fractures and other injuries after Endeavor brutally attacked him. Out of around 50 civilians in that crowd, 26 were injured and 7 were killed. This isn't even mentioning the property damage. The annual cost of property damage Endeavor's agency has to pay is 3 times the amount of Mount Ladies. Despite being a somewhat new hero, her property damage costs since her debut last year have surpassed the majority of other heroes. Ryoku sighs and the image of the Tomatsu fades from the screen. The image is replaced with multiple pictures of ruined streets and buildings that have half collapsed, charred street market stalls, ruined parks, all having been wrecked by Endeavor at some point or another. Now we are going to get into the more important part of this video. Most people already know that about Endeavor's fair approach to civilians, or the laissez-faire approach to civilians, but almost no one knows how he's treating his family, and I'm here to change that. The photo of the Todoroki family with Rei and the kids with ice cream appeared on the screen before Ryoku continues. This is Endeavor's family. You haven't seen them before? Honestly, I wouldn't expect you to, since other than Shoto, their faces and names are kept far from the media. This is Rei Todoroki, Endeavor's wife, and his children, Fuyumi, Natsuo, Shoto, and Toya. I'd like to make it clear that I have permission from all of them except Toya, who I'll get into more later, to say and show the things I'm going to say and show here. Each of his family members have their own story to share. I have only got an overview for you all to see for their privacy's sake. I met I met Rei Todoroki a few weeks ago. She agreed to film a statement of sorts, as did Shoto. I will play them both for you later on in the video. Rei and her children have all suffered from Endeavor's presence. Rei is currently stuck in a psychiatric ward, where she's been for almost 11 years now because of Endeavor. She's currently in a fit mental state but can't leave because Endeavor is using his power to keep her in the hospital. Fuyumi is currently living in a separate location, training to be a teacher. She was neglected by her father almost her entire life, after she was deemed worthless. Natsuo is in a similar condition, being neglected, though he's still at their home. He's currently looking for somewhere else to go, though he doesn't want to leave Shoto alone in the house. In Rei's statement, she briefly explains almost everything that happened to them because of Endeavor. So I'll be playing her statement first. The video cuts to the one of Ryoku took of Rei's statement. It hadn't been edited much, only parts where Ryoku had spoken had been removed. It plays through before fading neatly back to Ryoku. That explains better than I could have. The next clip I'll show you is Shoto's statement. It was one of the first things I filmed for the video. The screen cuts to yet another shot of Ryoku. In this one, he is sitting on his bed with Shoto Todoroki. Hello everyone! This is Shoto Todoroki. I'm sure you all recognize him from the sports festival and other 1A-centric media spotlights. I'm sure you already know what's going on by now. Todoroki's here to give his statement for our video about Endeavor, so go ahead whenever you're ready. Shoto gives a small wave and a nod before taking a deep breath, beginning to speak. I don't have many happy memories growing up. Todoroki started. Before my quirk came in, my father would spend time training me in basic strength and combat. When my quirk came in, he started more intensive training. He'd push me until I couldn't stand up anymore and then still expect me to continue. A lot of the sessions would end with both burns and minor frostbite. I got so used to throwing up it isn't even painful anymore. Mom and Toya always tried to protect me. Mom would try to stand up to him when I first got my quirk. He'd hurt her because she was in his way. Toya was practically tossed aside when Endeavor found someone better suited for his cause. Todoroki has a look of bitter sadness on his face as he speaks. When I was 5, my mom snapped. She couldn't take being around him and us anymore. She ended up in a mental hospital. It wasn't long before that when Toya passed away, leaving Fuyumi to take care of Natsuo by herself, even though she was only 13 years old. I was never allowed to talk to them, interact with them, see them, have anything to do with them. I had to eat separately. I was homeschooled, while they went to a public school. I never saw them at all after Mom left us. As I got older, the training got worse. I forgot a lot of things, about her and my siblings. I forgot the happy things. I was blinded by everything bad. Now I'm slowly getting better. I have friends now. He glances at Ryoku before continuing. People who are willing to help me. I'm hoping something will change after this video because I really want to see my mom and siblings again. Ryoku has been kind enough to help me. I hope everyone watching can help too. Just in case anyone still doesn't believe me, I have some direct evidence provided by Shoto Todoroki during the Hero Course internships, Ryoku says. These clips contain violence and abuse. If you're uncomfortable with this, skip to timestamp. Clips began to play. They are mainly filmed from a camera in the corner of one of the training room in Todoroki's house. The first clip shows Endeavor yelling at Todoroki, trying to make him use the fire half of his quirk. Next clip shows the training. Shoto is on the defensive the entire time, trying to make ice and dodge the fire and punches that are sent his way. At the same time, Endeavor simply smashes or melts the ice and continues to yell for Shoto to use his fire. The next clip shows the aftermath. The room is full of steam from the melted ice evaporating from Endeavor's fire. Shoto is on the ground, hugging himself as he shivers from the frost that built up on his right side, while he's trying to avoid a burn on his right shoulder. Endeavor stands over him, looking unimpressed. "That was poor effort, Shoto. When will you stop this stupid rebellion of yours and use that damned quirk I've given you? If you're going to surpass All Might, then you have to learn to be the best." When the clips finished playing, Ryoku returns to the screen with his arms crossed, looking much angrier than before. 18 times, he says flatly, leveling the camera with a glare. 18 times this was reported. 11 by Toya, 8 of those to the police, 2 to their neighbors, 1 to the Hero Commission, 4 by Fuyumi, 3 to the police and 1 to her school counselor, 2 from Natsuo, both to teachers, and 1 from Shoto to another hero whom I won't name. No one did anything. The police didn't bother filing the reports because the number 2 hero wouldn't do that. The neighbors ignored it out of fear, same with the teachers. The Hero Commission had no reason to turn them down, nor did the police. This behavior from our government is appalling. Ryoku glared at the camera before taking a deep breath. A second later, a photograph of Toya Todoroki appears on the screen and he begins speaking again. Toya Todoroki. His quirk allows him to produce blue fire, most likely hotter than Endeavor's. However, he was born with a weak constitution and his body wasn't built to handle this quirk. From what I can tell from the evidence I have, Toya was trained in a similar way to Shoto until he was 13 years old. Because of his body not having the natural resistance to heat that Shoto and Endeavor have, Toya ended up severely burning himself multiple times due to his quirk. The picture changes to show the one with Toya wrapped in bandages. When he was 13, Toya seemingly died after what was put on record as a quirk accident. It is unknown whether he died from his own quirk or Endeavor's. The photo on the screen now shows the charred training room. This strategy was not widely acknowledged by the media, as Endeavor sought to keep it private, which is understandable for most part. However, there were some articles that never got published that I managed to get my hands on. I'll allow you to read for yourself. A newspaper article fills the screen with the headlines: "Was the death of Toya Todoroki really just an accident?" The article outlines the boy's death and goes on to theorize that Endeavor may have actually murdered his son, or alternatively, that Toya killed himself. Another article replaced the first with a very similar topic. I personally have a few theories myself regarding this matter specifically, but I won't be sharing them here as it's neither the time nor the place. Ryoku says when the video cuts back to him. As a final message, I'd like to make everyone aware that this matter is very serious. Any forms of abuse or neglect can easily go unnoticed. If someone is to come to you with their concerns, take them seriously. If someone tells you this kind of thing is happening to them, listen to them and try to help, regardless of whether they're a villain, hero, vigilante, or just a civilian. No one deserves to go through experiences like these. Please download this video and share it if you can. Good luck with anything you may be going through right now. Ryoku bows to the camera. Thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. The screen goes black and white writing appears. The credits. Thank you to Shoto and Ray for offering your statements for this video. Thank you to Shoto for getting the footage of Endeavor's training during internships. Thank you to @SleepyCat2014 on Discord for helping me edit source and script for the video. Thank you to Dobby at Burnt Chicken Nugget on Discord for giving me the majority of the informations on Todoroki Toya. Thank you to Fuyumi and Natsuo for your permission to go through with this. Thank you to the Principal Netsu of UA for allowing me access to restricted government and Hero Commission files for the purpose of this video. Thank you in advance to Clause 1A, who I'm sure will support Shoto in whatever happens next. And finally, thank you to any of my viewers who share this video or otherwise spread the message. Ryoku analysis. Chapter 48. The next day. Shoto didn't know what to do with himself. He'd gotten lunch from the cafeteria and then headed outside to a more secluded area hidden behind the school building. In the opposite direction, Midoriya said he would take the class. It was difficult not to notice the quick glances people had started sending him in the corridors. Some were whispering, others stared openly, not even caring if he accidentally caught their eyes, and quickly shifted his gaze to his feet. Being in the spotlight like this wasn't the nicest feeling. Shoto decided almost instantly that he didn't like it. He knew it would die down after a while, so for now he'd just bear and move on until Ryoku's video did what it was intended to do. That meant that for now he'd be eating outside. As soon as he sat down though, he heard his name called and two sets of footsteps. His head snapped up from his tray to see Ida and Tokoyami running towards him, both carrying their own food. They wordlessly sat down opposite of him and started eating their own lunches, leaving Todoroki in surprised silence for a few seconds. "Guys?" Todoroki asked hesitantly, not sure what was going on. Ida looked up and gave him a smile, setting his tray on his lap before he began swinging his arms around as he spoke. Todoroki, sorry for intruding on your lunch like this. Me and Tokoyami figured that we'd make sure you're alright since we've both already seen the video and therefore do not need to join the rest of the class in watching it. Shoto nodded, slurping up some of his soba noodles before sighing. You're not intruding. Thank you for your concern. Are you alright though, my friend? Some of the things in that video were... Tokoyami trailed off, for once unable to find poetic words to describe how he's feeling. I know, Todoroki said. I'm okay though. I've lived with it for 16 years. I'm mainly bothered by all the staring. Ida looked relieved. He must have been really worried before perking up again with another worry. What will you do now? Ida asked. I mean, where will you go? You can't go back to live with your father after this, right? Honestly, Shoto had completely forgotten about Dad. Ida was right. He wouldn't be able to go back to his father now. He'd be furious. Maybe he could crash at Fuyumi's apartment until this was all over. But she already has a roommate and he doesn't want to put her in danger of his father's wrath. Besides, Natsuo would need somewhere to go as well, since he mainly stayed in the house. Eventually he decided with a reply that was quite simple. I don't know. Ida and Tokoyami paused for a second, considering before Ida spoke up. You could always go to the principal. It seems he helped Ryoko with the video and he has a lot of power. I'm sure it wouldn't be difficult for him to find some accommodations for you and your family. Ida is right. Tokoyami seconded Ida's point. If not for the rat Satan, then speak with Aizawa-sensei. He should be able to assist you as it is his duty. Shoto nodded and the trio fell silent again, all three of them eating their lunches. The silence was broken minutes later by Tokoyami. Todoroki, another thing has been plaguing my mind since watching your video last night. Tokoyami said quietly. You made it seem as though you had no clue as to Ryoku's identity when we discussed him with Midoriya and Shinzo, but it was obvious in the video that you were friends. If not more, were you lying to us? If not more? We are not dating, was the first thing that came to Todoroki's head as a reply to that statement. Ida barked out a laugh. Why does everyone keep thinking that? It must be something about you, Ida laughed. Something similar was implied about you and Midoriya back in Hosu, wasn't it? Shoto went red and covered his face, groaning out of embarrassment. You never answered my question, Todoroki reminded him, and Shoto snapped out of his embarrassment. Well, I met him at the sports festival, kind of. I'd rather not go into it for his identity's sake, but before the festival I didn't know his identity. Fair enough. Class 1A was stunned into silence for the entirety of 30 seconds. Kyoka stood next to Momo, whose hand was gripping her arm. Momo's other hand was clamped over her mouth, and Kyoka was in a similar state. Kaminari and Zero both looked like they'd been stabbed in the gut. Mina was stiff as a board, staring wide-eyed at the screen, while Tsuyu had a hand on Uraraka's back. The brown-haired girl had her hands clenched in front of her while silent tears streamed down her face. The rest of the class were all in varying degrees of shock, or sadness, or even anger in some cases. Kyoka could hear everyone's heartbeat. Most were beating faster than normal. She could feel her own heart racing as she looked up at Momoe, who was still standing frozen. From what Kyoka knew about her best friend and maybe crush, but she'd never admit it, Momo was probably straight anyway. She was probably blaming herself for not noticing sooner. Momo had told Kyoka small things about knowing Todoroki from when they were children. They'd met at fancy galas and other such rich people things. This must have hit her hard. Kyoka would definitely pull her aside to talk about this later. She needed to know that none of this was her fault. She was just a kid at the time too, after all. Todoroki was watching all of them, behind the computer. His face was solemn, and his look, when he'd caught her eyes, seemed to dare her to contradict what had been said. Go on. Question its truth. I dare you. Kyoka didn't question it because she had no reason to. Ryoko had never posted anything untrue before. His channel was meant to help people. He wouldn't be sharing false information to create a ruckus. Kyoko trusted Ryoko's words. She was sure many other people did too. After Midoriya had surveyed the class, he'd clicked his laptop shut. That seemed to be the cue for the silence to break. There was the click of the laptop, a beat, one measly second of silence. Then chaos. Kaminari and Zero started yelling something Kyoka couldn't be bothered to listen to. Tsuyu pulled Uraraka into a friendly, reassuring hug. Many of the others started to talk or yell or attempt to comfort each other. Kyoka instead decided that she was going to watch Midoriya. There was something odd going on with him. Kyoka knew it might be just the shock of the video too, but somehow she felt it wasn't. That his sudden change of attitude and burst of confidence and the release of the video seemed somehow unconnected. The way he was acting felt almost familiar, but not to Midoriya. She spent a moment wondering why his attitude was familiar before he'd somehow slipped through the crowd and appeared in front of her and Momo, effectively making her jump in surprise. Jiro, Momo, Izuku greeted sheepishly. I'm sorry for startling you guys. It's all right, Momo replied shakily, removing her hand from Jiro's arm to hold her own. I was just thinking. I was going to ask if you two were okay. You're not really joining in on the conversation, and you, especially Momo, looked pretty, iffy? Izuku trailed off in a questioning tone, not knowing what other words to use. I'm worried about Todoroki, obviously, Kyoka said, twisting one of her earphone jacks around her finger. A habit she had. This is just so sudden. I never expected it. Though now that I think about it, all the signs were there. I should have noticed sooner, Momo interjected. There it was, the self-blame. I've known Todoroki since we were children. I might not have seen him much back then, but I still should have been able to tell that something was wrong. Please don't blame yourself, Midoriya told her sharply. The only person to blame in this situation is Endeavor. You were a child then, Momo. You can't have been expected to notice something like that. Momo sighed and nodded. It was obvious that to Kyoka, and by the look on Midoriya's face, him as well, that she didn't believe him, that she still blamed herself, at least partly. Midoriya sighed and bowed his head, but didn't say anything else on the matter. I need to go find Todoroki, Izuku told them. C- can you two make sure the class know not to bombard him with questions when we come back to class? Her friend sighed but nodded, looking determined. I can do that. Thank you for sharing this with all of us. I'll speak to everyone as vice representative. With a nod of agreement from Kyoka, Midoriya smiled. Kyoka was sure that Midoriya knew as well as she did that Momo would make quick work of calming the crowd and letting them know what they needed to know. It took a second before Izuku bowed to them and ran back off towards the school, his laptop bashing against his leg as he went. All right, everyone! Momo clapped her hands to gain the attention of the crowd. Listen up! Katsuki Bakugo clenched his fists, glaring at his desk. It was the end of the school day, but half the class hadn't left quite yet. Whoever was left had split into 3 distinct groups. The majority of his classmates in 1C had crowded around 2 phones, just as people had been doing this morning, watching something. The third group, much smaller, consisting of 2 girls and a dorky-looking guy with swirly purple irises, were talking, getting ready to watch the video on one of the girls' phones. He wasn't eavesdropping on their conversation until he overheard the words Ryoku and new video. After that, he'd listened a little closer to find out that the video Ryoku had posted the night before was what everyone was freaking out about. The video had apparently been taken down soon after it was posted, which had been after he'd gone to sleep for the night, annoyingly, and now everyone was watching it, from the people who managed to snag it. Oi, extras! Katsuki spoke up. The trio spun around to face him. All 3 of them looked nervous. Yes? A girl with deer antlers asked. All 3 of them were scared of him. That much was obvious. Katsuki hadn't actually done anything to them since being kicked out of the hero course. He'd actually been trying hard to keep his head down, but being kicked out of the hero course seemed to give him a bad enough reputation regardless, along with his quirk and generally intimidating appearance. Let me watch too! Katsuki demanded. Antler Girl stared at him like a deer in headlights. Get it? While the other girl with a passive snow cloud quirk nodded and turned her phone so that he could see the screen as well before pressing play. Deku had fucking done it. He made the video an endeavor that he'd promised Icy Hot back at the sports festival. Of course he already knew that Endeavor was an abusive asshole. Fuck, he'd heard Icy Hot's story the day too. But to that extent? Driving his own kid to death? What the fucking was this world coming to if that guy was number 2? Katsuki wanted to berate the extras who didn't listen when it was reported, but for some reason he felt unworthy. He wasn't anything better than that, was he? He'd almost killed Deku. He'd bullied him all his life, hurt people, yet still expected to be a hero. He didn't deserve to look down on those who ignored Endeavor's actions when he had sided with those who ignored his own. Most of the class had cleared out by now, and Katsuki was left with his own thoughts as he made his way home. Sir, it's trending everywhere. Japan, America, the UK, there's nothing we can do. The head of Endeavor's public relations team spoke while staring down the hero. She was in his office along with the head of Endeavor's legal team. UA has released a statement saying they back the claims in the video, sir. People simply keep re-uploading it faster than we can take it down. They're sharing it personally as well, using private copies of the video. It's spread too far for us to do anything. Too many people have seen it already. It wasn't that either of them wanted to be on Endeavor's bad side. They'd both been burned by the hero in a fit of rage before, and it wasn't exactly pleasant. But they also both hoped that this would happen. The hero mistreated his sidekicks and staff along with the contents of the video. He deserved whatever that was coming for him.
There's always something you can do,
the hero roared.
It's your jobs to fix this issue, so fix it! I want Ryoku and his little informants found as well. Now get out of my sight!
The two scampered, shutting the office door behind them before they took a breath. We're not telling him who Ryoku is, right? The woman asked quietly as they walked towards the elevator.
Absolutely not. Endeavor will kill him if he finds out. I won't let that happen to a kid.
The man replied with a sigh, hitting the button to their floor at the agency. Good to know that we're on the same page. She smiled. The man nodded.
Good luck trying to save the asshole's wreck of a reputation,
he said with a smirk. You and I both know that's impossible. She laughed, giving him a two-fingered salute before bouncing off to her office. He chuckled to himself before heading to his own. Aizawa wanted to smash his head into a wall. Natsu had called an emergency meeting after school to show them a video posted the night before by Ryoku. The video that the whole school was going crazy over. And rightly so. The room was silent for a while after the video had ended. Aizawa looked around to gauge his colleagues' reactions. Most were in some degree of shock. Natsu looked grim, but he'd known this was happening. He was in the credits of the video. Other than Natsu, the only one who didn't look distraught or shocked was Yagi, who simply looked dumbfounded. Did you really know about all this? Nemuri was the first to speak, her question directed to Natsu. The rat shook his head. I assure you that if I knew about the contents of this video, I would have done something much sooner. I only knew about its creation, Natsu answered solemnly. I simply provided access to materials.
Aizawa dragged a hand down his face. Problem children.
At that moment, someone decided to interrupt their meeting by knocking on the door. The knock was quiet, timid at best, as if the person was worried about interrupting. Natsu called for the intruder to come in, and the door creaked open, revealing Shoto Todoroki himself, looking more nervous than Aizawa had ever seen him before.
Todoroki started. Sorry for the interruption. I was wondering if I could speak with Aizawa-sensei.
It wasn't hard to guess why the kid was nervous, especially after watching the video. Todoroki had been on edge all day, not to mention the stares and whispers from the rest of the school. He had every right to be nervous. Aizawa wanted to go and help him now, but he had to finish the meeting first. Damn it! He didn't sigh, even though he really wanted to. He knew it would probably upset the kid more. Instead, he drank a mouthful of coffee. He really needed it right now.
Go and wait for Go and wait for me in the teacher's lounge, kid. Shinso should be there too. I'll talk with you when the meeting's over.
Aizawa said simply. Todoroki nodded sharply and retreated out of the door, not closing it. A second later, Midoriya,
God damn it! Another problem child! Especially since this problem child started all of this,
appeared in his place, quickly said thank you in sign language. Aizawa doubted anyone else saw, since they'd all turned back to Netsu once Todoroki had left. Aizawa nodded in return and Midoriya left too, pulling the door shut behind him.
Today had already been a long day, and now it's gotten even longer.
Aizawa couldn't complain though. This was all to help his problem children. He'd take a long day every day for a year before he leaves Todoroki with Endeavor for another damn minute.
Now we have a dilemma, Netsu said. We can't let Todoroki and his siblings go back to that house. We need to figure out what we can and are willing to do until legal action is taken. That is the next point of discussion for this meeting.
Aizawa brought his attention back to the principal's words. For the rest of the meeting, inputting his opinions here and there, for once the entirety of the staff was in full agreement, leaving no need for argument.
Chapter 49.
A New Home.
Hey, Midoriya, icy hot.
Shinso gave the pair a tired wave from the sofa in the teacher's lounge when they arrived together.
You guys looking for someone?
Nope,
Izuku said, popping the P as he dragged Todoroki by the hand to the sofa.
We need to talk to Aizawa-sensei. He told us to wait here until the staff meeting is done.
Ah, Shinso nodded, shifting over to allow the other two room to sit down. They gladly took the opening, Izuku flopping down with a tired sigh and Todoroki sitting carefully next to him, looking thoughtful.
What are you doing here? What are you here for, anyways, Shinso?
Todoroki asked after a second.
Izuku smiled. His friend needed a normal conversation right now.
I'm actually waiting for Aizawa to...
Shinzo replied, awkwardly scrolling through his phone, before his eyes widened.
Izuku? Should we do something about this? People are spamming.
What is it? Izuku asked, leaning over Shinzo's shoulder to look at the screen. Todoroki leaned over as well, wondering what was going on. Shinzo quickly tilted his phone so they could both see and scrolled through the bot channel, which was currently being spammed with the marriage bot commands to hug Shoto's user. Izuku found himself laughing.
No, no,
he said after recovering.
Leave it.
They're being nice. Besides, there's no rule against spam in the bot channels.
What are they doing?
Todoroki asked after a second of staring at all the messages.
Hugging you!
Izuku grinned.
What does it mean?
Todoroki tilted his head to the side. Like a kitten? And Izuku laughed. Shinzo facepalmed next to him.
Well, usually you hug people to make them feel better when they're sad, or it's like to reassure someone you care for that you're here for them.
Izuku explained as best as he knew.
I think people on the Discord are just trying to say they support you and want you to be happy.
So they're trying to make me happy,
Todoroki clarified.
Basically, yeah.
Izuku nodded.
How do you do it?
Was Todoroki's next question. Shinzo hid his silent laughter behind his hand. Izuku considered it, blinking in thought. Well, you kind of wrap your arms around each other? Izuku said, phrasing it like a question. It might be easier if I just show you. Are you okay with me hugging you, Todoroki? Um, sure. Todoroki replied. Izuku smiled and leaned forward, pulling Todoroki into an awkward hug. At least it was gentle, and resting his chin on the older boy's shoulder. On the other boy's shoulder. They sat awkwardly like that for a few moments before Todoroki copied Izuku. Like this? Todoroki asked quietly. Izuku nodded quickly against his shoulder, trying to ignore how hot his face felt right now. It was probably bright red. Izuku managed to say before pulling away from the hug. Todoroki nodded decisively. That was nice, Todoroki said, and Izuku smiled. There was a cough from the doorway to the teacher's lounge, and all three boys looked up to see Aizawa standing in the doorway, looking unimpressed. I can see why the rest of the staff think you two are dating, Aizawa huffed. Todoroki stared at him wide-eyed, while Izuku went red and started sputtering. We're not, we're just friends, I swear. Why do people keep thinking that? Izuku yelped, and Aizawa held back a smile. You guys do act like it sometimes, Shinzo said, earning a smack on the arm. We do not! Izuku huffed. We're just good friends! Shinzo rolled his eyes and turned back to his phones while Aizawa got their attention again. Well, there are a few things I've been told to discuss with you, Todoroki, Aizawa drawled. The main thing we need to discuss is where you'll be staying until we can deal with Endeavor. The other things can come later after I've had a nap. That's what I wanted to talk to you about, Sensei. I can't live with my sister. I'm worried about putting her in danger. Besides, she's got a small apartment and a roommate as it is. Natsuo has already texted me to say he's going to stay with them anyway. Todoroki quickly explained. I think he expected me to have already sorted out. Aizawa nodded, considering Todoroki's words for a second before speaking. Well, that's one problem solved, I guess. At least we only have to deal with you. Should we, go? Shinzo asked. This seems like some confidential shit language. Aizawa cut him off, and I'm sure Todoroki would tell Midoriya anyways. Todoroki nodded, not even caring about how his teacher basically just called him out. Me? Shinzo prompted. You'll see why this concerns you. Right, continue then. Aizawa nods, turning back to Todoroki, who had been sitting quietly this whole time. Being a UA student means that any member of the UA staff shares some custody over you, in a student-teacher way. This also means that in some situations it is possible for a member of UA staff to take emergency custody of you. Okay, I see how this involves me now. Shinzo sighed, already knowing where this was about to go. Izuku nodded, though Todoroki just looked confused. Aizawa sighed. Red Satan decided me and Mike were the best candidates to temporarily take you in because we both have foster licenses along with the custody thing and experience. Wait, Todoroki interrupted. Izuku noticed that his head was slightly tilted to the and he had a small frown on his face. The facial expression was one of the few that was easy to recognize. His conspiracy face. This could only mean... This could only go well. You and Mike Sensei are together, I thought. No, you didn't, Izuku cut in. You thought nothing. But No! Yes, me and Mike are together. Is everything okay, Midoriya? Yes, everything is fine. You just don't need to hear this one. Too many conspiracy theories about you and Mike. Izuku explained, waving him off. We should get back on topic. Right. Todoroki sighed. Aizawa nodded firmly, folding his arms before continuing. You would need to consent to us being your temporary legal guardians. You would live in our house. We have a guest room where you may stay. One of us will accompany you to your home to get any personal belongings, should you agree. Aizawa said bluntly, We have 3 cats in the sun. I hope you don't mind. You failed to mention that I'm the sun, Shinzo drawled, leveling Aizawa with a deadpan stare. Izuku laughed at Todoroki's astounded expressions. I like cats and Shinzo is my friend. There wouldn't be a problem. Todoroki said, I'm going to assume that this is the only option you'll give me? Unfortunately, it's one of the only things we could think of. We assumed this would be what you were most comfortable with. Aizawa huffed. Any other options would be the same except with a different staff member. It's not permanent. We're hoping your mother will be allowed out of the hospital and be able to take custody of all 3 of you. But until that happens, we can't allow you to return to Endeavor. Now we know about the information about that video. Aizawa finished. He stopped talking suddenly and the room fell silent. Their teacher was obviously waiting for a response. Eventually, Todoroki gave them a slow nod. Okay, what will I need to do? Good. There are a few forms you need to sign. Netsu has them, so you'll have to follow me. Aizawa told him, taking a step back. Todoroki stood up quickly and followed him to the door. Aizawa looked back as he was about to leave. Oh, Midoriya, you're free to leave at any time. However, if you want to stay and help out, please let your mother know where you are. Yes, sir! Izuku nodded, pulling out his phone as Aizawa led Todoroki outside, writing a quick text to his mom to tell her where he was and that he wouldn't be home until later. Once he was done with his phone, he pulled out a packet of mini cookies and offered one to Shinzo before eating a good few himself. Whoop! Family road trip! Midoriya yelled, throwing his hands in the air and almost hitting both Todoroki and Shinzo in the process. Currently they were all crammed into Aizawa's car that their teacher was driving. Mike was sitting in the passenger seat and the teenagers were in the back. Izuku had ended up sitting in the middle. Because he's the shortest, which Izuku thought was bullshit. They just used it as an excuse to not have the bad seat. We're not really a family, Todoroki observed, and we're not on a road trip. We're just going to my house. Yeah, but I'm making it fun. Izuku grinned. Hell yeah! Road trip! Mike yelled. I've got some awesome tunes we can jam out to on the way. See what you've done, Shinzo huffed, turning his glare on Izuku as Mike started playing an album of pop songs. They were all in English and only Izuku recognized a few. That was until Mike foolishly played Hot and Cold by Katy Perry, which resulted in both Izuku and Shinzo screaming the lyrics and doing some absurd hand gestures in Todoroki's general direction. Aizawa had never regretted his life choices more. Getting Shoto's stuff had been easily enough. Endeavor wasn't there. He was busy doing who knows what. So the only people in the house were Natsuo and Fuyumi, who were packing up Natsuo's stuff to move over to the apartment. "Hello, Shoto! And a bunch of other people?" Fuyumi called as she jogged over upon hearing the door open, first addressing Shoto and then glancing at everyone else, her eyes coming to rest on the two adults.
Hi! I'm Isashi Yamada, and this grumpy is my husband, Shota Aizawa, and we both teach at UA.
Mike started off with the introduction enthusiastically before Aizawa cut him off to continue.
"This is our adoptive son and your brother's friend, Hitoshi Shinzo, and that's Midoriya Izuku. Another friend of Todoroki, but otherwise just here to help out,"
Aizawa explained. Shortly, both teenagers waved at their names.
We are the ones Todoroki will be living with until all of this blows over.
Fuyumi's eyes widened a little before she smiled. "Oh, well, come in. Would any of you like a drink or a snack? I'm sure you already know who we are, but I'm Fuyumi and my brother is Natsuo. We're almost done packing up Natsuo's things, so if you need anything, just yell for me."
"Oh hey, it's Mama Doria and his purple friend! And you two, whose introductions I've just heard, must be but your names I've completely forgotten."
Natsuo walked in after hearing the commotion. Izuku put his head in his hands at the nickname and Aizawa raised an eyebrow.
"We're here to help the little listener pack up his stuff,"
Mike said happily, shaking Natsuo's hand.
"A coffee would be great," Aizawa said, addressing Fuyumi. "This is going to be a long afternoon."
"I can see why. The kitchen is this way. I think there was already some coffee in the pot." Fuyumi gestured with a smile and Aizawa followed her, leaving the remaining four to head to Todoroki's room after Natsuo said a quick goodbye and ran off to continue his own thing. Todoroki didn't have much stuff, mainly plain t-shirts and jeans along with a couple of training outfits. He had a few pairs of trainers along with a pair of dress shoes that went with a suit that sat in the back of his wardrobe. Otherwise, there really wasn't much to grab. Izuku got the impression that Todoroki wasn't allowed many decorative things growing up. There were a few framed photos. Was the same photo of the family eating ice cream Izuku had used in the video. One was a very recent photo, a selfie Izuku had taken of him, Todoroki, Shinzo, Kirishima and Tokoyami at lunch, and the final one of a recent visit with Rei. It was a photo they'd taken before taking Rei's statement. Izuku, Inko and Shinzo were in the picture along with Todoroki and Rei. The only other thing worth bringing in Todoroki's room was a box that had been stuffed in the back of his wardrobe, obviously in an attempt to keep it hidden. They'd found that the box contained some hero-related things. There was an All Might poster that had been placed back in the tube. It was one from around 10 years ago with a picture of All Might and the text saying,
"Anyone can be a hero."
Izuku almost laughed when he saw it. The man was such a hypocrite. Along with 2 All Might figurines and a couple of more figures of other heroes that Izuku knew had been more popular when they were kids. Izuku made sure to take care of that take care with that box. He didn't know how special the things were to Todoroki, but growing up as he had, Izuku could only assume that his friend would be upset if any one of the few things he had of his own was damaged. They'd packed a tiny amount of things into the car, and Mike had told Todoroki that he'd be taking him out shopping after school the next day. The boy needed more clothes, that he picked out himself, and set off back towards Todoroki's new temporary home. Chapter 50. The first day of a new life. Doesn't Endeavor get a say in all of this? Shoto asked, breaking the silence as he, Midoriya, and Shinzo stared at his two boxes of things that Mike Sensei had left on the bed in the spare room for them to sort out. When they've gotten back to Aizawa and Mike's house, their homeroom teacher had shown them to the spare room, now his room, and then left them alone for a moment before Mike came in with Shoto's things and then similarly left. Admittedly, Shoto was a little scared of unpacking his things only to be told he had to leave again because he knew Endeavor would never agree to this. "Don't worry about the flaming garbage." Midoriya waved a hand dismissively, shooting him a smile. Shinzo smirked for such a crude action. It was oddly reassuring. Dad and the rat was taking care of it. Dad said the rat was taking care of it, meaning you can trust that Endeavor won't be bothering you. Shinzo explained. Midoriya nodded happily. You're safe. You're safe here. Todoroki, the teachers should be handling everything from here, Midoriya reassured. Todoroki found himself smiling. Hopefully Rei will be out of the hospital soon and she can take custody of you. Until then, you have us and Mike and Aizawa. You don't need to worry. Thank you, Midoriya, and you, Shinzo, for everything, Shoto said, a wave of happiness washing over him as he finally let himself accept this. He was away from his father and with his friends and others who cared about him. For the first time in his life, Shoto felt truly safe. You're welcome. I just saw a way to help you and helped you. It's really no big deal. Midoriya deflected, waving his hands around as if he was trying to beat the gratitude away. It really is a big deal to me and my family, Shoto said, giving Midoriya a look. His friend looked like he was about to start denying it again, so Shoto quickly continued. Midoriya, you really have no idea how much you've changed all of our lives, do you? You have done nothing but make our lives better, and I know my siblings and mother are as grateful to you as I am. So please stop refusing my gratitude because you deserve it. Midoriya stared at him for a long moment, eyes wide. Shoto began to wonder if he'd overstepped some kind of boundary, especially when Midoriya teared up. Todoroki, you're my friend, Midoriya said, wiping away a tear that escaped his eyes. I don't know what to say. How about, you're welcome, Todoroki. I love you so much we could get together because we totally act like we're dating anyway, Shinzo said unhelpfully, making his voice go high and squeaky, waving his hands around in a poor imitation of Midoriya, who went red at the statement. We are not dating! Midoriya yelled, obviously incredibly flustered. You know that, Shinzo! Shinzo snorted. Yeah, but winding you up is fun. Midoriya shot an exaggerated pout at Shinzo before turning back to Shoto with a smile on his face. I'm really happy. I could help you all so much. You are one of my best friends. It makes me so happy to see you happy. And I guess you're welcome for making that happen? Thank you. Shoto nodded, and the group lapsed back into more comfortable silence. It wasn't broken again for at least a minute, while the three simply enjoyed each other's company. Shoto almost felt bad breaking it again. Almost. Um, can we... Can we do the thing from earlier? Shoto asked, quietly glancing at Midoriya, who had a perplexed look on his face just a second before his face broke into a brilliant smile. There was barely a moment before he pounced and wrapped his arms around him. Another second passed and Shinzo joined in, wrapping his arms around around both of them. Shoto took a deep breath and allowed himself to smile, keeping one arm around Midoriya as he moved to the other, to hug Shinzo as well. Midoriya had done the same. They stayed like that for a good minute before Shinzo broke off away with a mutter of, "Right, that's enough mushy stuff for today." Midoriya laughed and let Shoto go. He missed the friendly warmth from the hug, but he knew he had to let go too, so he did, quickly turning back to the stuff on the bed. I guess I should unpack these then, Shoto said with a small smile. Midoriya nodded and they got to work. Waking up in a room that looked so different from his own, down to the style of architecture, had been an experience. At first, he'd panicked, thinking he might have been kidnapped, before the events of the day before came back to him and he relaxed. This bed was way more comfortable than the futon he slept on at home. The room felt light and warm and welcoming. Morning sun was streaming through the window, and even though the curtains were closed. His old room had been the only space in his house he'd had to himself, and had never gone in there, which had been one of the few blessings he'd been allowed in that house. But still it was lonely and never felt like a place he truly belonged in. He didn't feel like he belonged here either. It still felt strange, living in his teacher's house, but it was 10 times better in comparison. When he'd tried to move, he'd realized he was weighed down by something. Actually, 4 somethings, all on his left side. After a quick observation, he realized they were cats. The smallest one was nestled between his shoulder and chin. It was a brown tabby, but barely bigger than a kitten. One was draped across his foot, a large reddish-brown Persian. An Egyptian Mao was curled up against his side, and the last was a big fluffy black and white ragdoll cat, who had curled up on his left leg. Shoto simply reached his arm over to pet the Egyptian Mao and resigned to his fate for a while, until Mike slammed the door open and started yelling loudly. It made him jump at first, but he didn't sound reprimanding in the slightest. Simply way too enthusiastic for 6:30 in the morning. Shoto had always considered himself a morning person, but that was pushing it. Oh, so this is where all the cats have been! Mike exclaimed, pausing in his ramblings about making waffles for breakfast when he finally actually looked at Shoto. I guess so. Shoto replied, Mike-sensei.
Call me Hitachi or Yamada if you're not comfortable with that. You live with us now, little listener. You don't got to use our hero names.
Mike, Hitachi yelled.
Anyway, what is it?
What are the cats' names? Shoto asked. He'd originally been going to ask something different, but the interruption had startled him so much that he'd forgotten what and, well, he had to ask something. He didn't want to know. He did want to know anyway.
Well, the one on your shoulder is just called Cat.
Hitachi said. Shoto nodded before a look of confusion at the name obviously wasn't missed.
Aizawa and Shinzo named her. They now no longer hold cat naming privileges.
Oh. Shoto found himself wanting to laugh, but he wasn't sure if this was a joke or laughter would be an acceptable reaction. He knew Hitachi was fond of a reaction to most things. He sat there in class, but people tend to act different in their homes. Shoto didn't want to risk it.
Anyway, the Persian is all Meowth,
Mike said proudly.
I named her. I know you ain't a fan of the hero, but you like the pun?
Shoto nodded with a small smile on his face. When an opinion was asked of him from his father, it was usually wise to give him what he wanted to see. But Hitachi seemed to want his genuine option, so that was what he gave. It was a good enough pun.
Awesome! Good to know my jokes are actually appreciated.
Hitachi laughed openly.
The ragdoll cat is called Sir Backpackius the Third. Shoto said I couldn't name any more cats after that one, which is how he ended up naming Cat.
Sir Backpackius. Shoto assumed he could drop the title unless he was addressing the cat directly, since it was a long name. It was an odd name for a cat, but it made Shoto smile. He reached over to pet Sir Backpackius, who meowed back at him.
The last one is Meowth Lady. I called her that, 'cause Shoto found her on the same day as her debut.
Hitachi finished with a flourish.
By the way, I actually came to let you know I made waffles for breakfast. They're in the kitchen. If you want some. If you don't like waffles, I can cook you something else too. Or we have cereal and toast and stuff. I don't really know what you like. Just calm down when you're ready, little listener.
Waffles are fine, Shoto said quietly. He'd never actually had them before, but he wasn't against trying new things. Besides, Hitachi went through the effort. I will be there soon.
Awesome!
Hitachi cheered, ducking out of the door before poking his head back in.
See ya!
Shoto waved half-heartedly before Hitachi left him alone, and he decided he should probably attempt to detangle himself from the cats. He only partially succeeded. He'd ended up with Cat climbing up on his head and curling up there instead. I'll meow it, meowed at him annoyed, but got up and trotted out of the room. Meowth Lady ended up curled around his shoulders, and Sir Backpackius refused to move. So Shoto scooped him up in his arms as a compromise. He'd gotten up, deciding he'd change into his uniform later, and headed out of the room, slowly making his way downstairs so as to not let Meowth Lady or Cat fall from their positions. To his surprise, Aizawa and Shinzo were both already up when Shoto finally made it down the stairs. He'd stopped in his tracks when he'd found them both staring at him. Immediately he started to worry. He didn't allow his face to show it, but he was internally running through everything he might have done wrong to deserve their disapproving looks. He felt his hands begin to shake a little as it started to feel slightly nauseous. Shoto didn't know what his was or what was happening. He could barely register his own thoughts. What had he done? Why were they upset with him? Did something happen? He knew it was too good to be true. What if they sent him back to Endeavor? What if... When Shinzo spoke, he was already trapped in a downward mental spiral. In his current state, Shoto didn't even register what Shinzo had said, simply staring blankly back at them, both. He'd dropped her backpackius at some point. The cat was fine. He tried headbutting Shoto's foot, sensing that something was wrong, but it had done nothing to snap him out of his clouded thoughts. But he barely even registered it. He hadn't meant to.
Todoroki? Yo! Todoroki! Are you okay, little listener?
A hand on his shoulder. A loud voice. Shoto knew it was Hitsashi, but he couldn't help but being reminded of Endeavor. The stern voice, firm, hot grip on his shoulder, ready to push him to the floor at any moment. Shoto jumped as his name was said again, staring wide-eyed at Hitsashi as he raised his volume further, but it was what he needed to bring him back to the present. Even if he was a little freaked out, the volume temporarily reminded him of his father before he firmly reminded himself that he was safe. He wasn't there.
I'm all right,
Todoroki answered after a deep breath to steady himself. He slowly dropped into a bow, careful not to let the remaining cats fall. I apologize for losing myself to my thoughts. I shouldn't have allowed myself to get distracted. What were you saying, Shinzo?
You don't gotta apologize, little mister,
Hitsashi told him, lowering his voice a little.
Sorry for startling ya.
Okay. Shoto replied quietly after a second of contemplation. He noticed Aizawa staring at him. Before they momentarily locked eyes and Aizawa looked away. Shinzo looked worried, but seemed to decide to put it aside for later and repeat himself.
I said that you're a cat hogger, and asked how you got them all to stay with you like that.
Shinzo told him.
Oh.
Shoto said quietly.
There are too many shows in this household.
So there had been nothing to worry about. Well done, Shoto. You made them all worry about you for no reason. What a great person you are.
I'm not sure. I haven't much experience with cat. I think they enjoy the warmth of my left side.
That makes sense. They probably like the heat from your fire quirk. Shinzo shrugged, accepting the fact they usually sleep on the radiators and stuff, so it makes sense.
You want some waffles?
Hitsashi asked, speaking over the end of Shinzo's sentence, attempting to distract from whatever had caused Shoto's panic and move the conversation on. He was holding up a plate of food like it was some sort of offering. Shoto stared at him for a second before stepping forward and hesitantly taking the plate.
Thank you,
Shoto said, moving to sit down next to Shinzo, attempting to push what had just happened as far from his mind as possible. Maybe it would go away if he pretended it never happened. The look Aizawa gave him said otherwise, but he could ignore it for now. Hitsashi's waffles tasted amazing. The day of school that followed was surprisingly calm if you ignore the concerned glances of his classmates sent his way and how other people seemed too nervous to speak with him. Especially Yaoyorozu, she seemed to be clanking his way more than others. Glancing his way more than others. Shoto had never been the best at reading social situations, but he knew he'd seen more than the usual concern in her eyes. It seemed something like guilt. Shoto couldn't figure out why. Midoriya had been enthusiastic, asking about Shoto's morning and pestering him with positivity. He hadn't minded in the slightest. Shoto had answered his questions honestly, for the most part. He'd decided to leave out the whole issue of this morning. He didn't want his friend to worry about him. He'd kept sending glances Shoto's way, but he couldn't quite figure out why. For the most part, the day went smoothly, apart from when Aizawa asking him to see him after school, which he'd worried about appropriately for the rest of the day until he could meet Aizawa in the teacher's lounge, telling Midoriya and Shinzo to go on without him.
Todoroki, take a seat,
Aizawa said as soon as he'd walked through the door. The teacher had caught his eye and immediately noticed his worried expression.
You're not in any trouble. I just wanted to talk about what happened this morning.
Shoto nodded and sat down on the sofa opposite of Aizawa. He stayed silent, waiting for the teacher to continue.
First of all, I'd like to ask if you're sure you're okay with living with us.
Aizawa said.
I noticed you seemed very nervous this morning.
Shoto started, except he wasn't sure how he planned to continue.
I guess I'm not sure. It's a new experience. I just need a day or two to get used to things. All right.
Aizawa nodded, seeming to accept that for what was the truth.
And you are all right after what happened this morning? You seem to brush off the panic attack very quickly.
Panic attacks? Is that what happened?
I've never had one of those before.
Shoto trailed off into thought. He hadn't been sure what had happened to him that morning. He'd thought maybe he was getting sick. Endeavor had always told him that things like that were things only cowards did. Shoto knew his father was wrong, as he was about many things, but it still struck him.
Yes, that's what happened.
Aizawa sighed.
I'm no therapist, but I've had my fair share of experience working in a school. Among other things, I can recognize that type of thing when I see it. So I simply wanted to ask what caused it and how we can help you.
There was a long moment of silence. In truth, Shoto didn't know what exactly caused it either. He had just been so worked up and on edge that morning from waking up in a new place, and Hitsashi's loud enthusiasm, and the disapproving looks he got from the apparent cat theft.
I'm not sure what caused it myself.
Shoto decided to answer truthfully.
I think I was still recovering from the events of yesterday, and then all the new things this morning really didn't help. I believe I had just worked myself up and talked myself into thinking everything wasn't too good to be true, and it's alright.
Aizawa took a sip of his coffee.
We're not going to let you go back to Endeavor. Me and Hitachi plan to do everything in our power to protect you while Netsu is working
to have this taken to court and remove his hero status, as well as hopefully sending him to prison. Now, is there anything you think will help?
Call me Shoto. Shoto replied without hesitation, before his mind caught up and he realized how blunt that probably sounded, especially talking to a teacher. He quickly followed it up with an explanation, hoping it would make his request seem more reasonable. At least to himself. I would rather not be associated with him being addressed by my last name, as has always made me uncomfortable. Besides, since we will be living together for the foreseeable future, and Hitsashi insisted I use his first name, it seemed only fitting. Aizawa nodded. All right, I'll let Hisashi know. Would you like the rest of the class to address you that way as well, or just us? Shoto took a moment to think it over. The thought of his classmates beyond a select few calling him by his first name seemed strange. He wasn't exactly against it, but he wasn't sure whether he was all for it either. I'll think about it, though I would like to talk to Midoriya, Shinso, and Kirishima separately. Okay, kid. I'll leave you to it. Back to your friends now. Make sure you tell Midoriya about the panic attack. He's been worrying about you all day. He has? Aizawa just sighed and waved him off, indicating that he was done with Shoto's cluelessness, and proceeded to down the cup of coffee. Shoto took this as a sure sign to leave and stood up, quickly making his way out of the teacher's lounge. When Shoto approached the entrance to UA, he'd been surprised to find his friends waiting for him. He was sure he told them to go on without him. Todoroki! Midoriya ran up to him and grabbed his wrist, dragging him back over to where Shinso was waiting. I know you said to go on without you, but you looked so worried. We thought we should stay and make sure everything was okay. Correction. Midoriya said we should stay. I don't argue with Midoriya. Right. So, what did Aizawa-sensei want to talk about? Midoriya asked, tilting his head in a curious way as he and Shinso fell into step either side of Shoto, who found his gaze fixed onto his feet. Aizawa had told him to tell Midoriya about the panic attack, and he probably should, but after keeping it a secret, it would be so much easier to just continue lying. After a short mental debate with himself, though, he decided he shouldn't lie to someone he considered a best friend. He wanted to speak with me about what happened this morning, Shoto said simply. He noticed the immediate look of understanding cross Shinso's face before he nodded in satisfaction. Shinso was happy Shoto had decided to tell Midoriya. He'd been somewhat annoyed at Shoto's decision to keep it from his friend. What happened this morning? Midoriya asked, suddenly a little wary, glancing between Shinso and Shoto. It was obvious that he could tell something was going on here. Well, Aizawa told me I should tell you about the apparent panic attack I had this morning, Shoto said quietly. I wasn't aware that was what happened until he told me. I feared something had happened, Midoriya interrupted, his voice thoughtful. I knew something was up this morning. Something was just off. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want to make you worry about me. Shoto sighed. Everyone's already worried enough about me. I'm sorry. Midoriya just sighed. It's okay, Todoroki. You know, you don't need to be sorry. Just tell us next time, okay? All right, Shoto replied, and Midoriya nodded happy.
as if he'd won the conversation. "Oh, one more thing."
"Oh, one more thing."
"Yes?"
"Please call me Shoto."
Chapter 51. News reports and party planning.
"Please call me Shoto."
Shoto repeated the request from earlier, beginning to explain himself yet again before Midoriya decided to interrupt. "Don't worry, it makes sense that you wouldn't want to use your last name."
"It does?"
"Mm-hmm. It's just common sense, really. Endeavor is the cause of most of your trauma, so being called by the name you probably associate with him wouldn't be nice for you. Besides, we've done so much together, it only makes sense that we'd be on first name basis by now." Midoriya reasoned, his cheeks dusted pink as he continued. "So if we're going to call you Shoto, it's only fair that you guys call me Izuku."
"And you guys can call me Hitoshi," Shinzo added on. "I'm not being left out on this whole first name thing."
"We weren't planning on it." Izuku smiled as they approached the corner where Izuku would leave them. "See you guys tomorrow. Have fun shopping with Mike, Shoto." Izuku ran off down the road without leaving a second for either of them to get a word in after him. I'm sure all of our viewers are aware of the Endeavor case by now. The video posted by a young YouTuber who goes by the alias Ryoku Analysis released a video on Monday night that shook the country. Despite being taken down on multiple sites, it managed to make its way around the population. The video itself is now trending on multiple platforms in Japan and has made national news in other countries, most notables being the world's hero capital, the USA, and the United Kingdom. I'm sure everyone is waiting on an update with this case. Everyone's curious as to what will come out of the number 2 hero. Well, I'll hand it over to our correspondent who's speaking with the head of Endeavor's legal team right now. Izuku stared at the TV screen where the news had been playing. His video made national news. He kept watching as the screen switched to a news correspondent standing with a man in a professional-looking suit. He had side-swept mint green hair and darker green eyes. He wore large round glasses. Izuku thought he looked like a kind enough man. He wasn't sure how he'd ended up working for such an asshole of a hero. "Hello! As my colleague already said, I'm here today with the head of Endeavor's legal team, Taro Tachibana. Tachibana, what do you have to say about all this?"
"Thank you. I'd like to start off by saying that despite our jobs at the Endeavor Hero Agency being to protect the hero, we're glad of Ryoku's video. Not only do we fully support the claims in said video, but we've experienced Endeavor's abuse firsthand. Of course, none of us would claim to have it as badly as his immediate family, but we'd like you to know you aren't alone. The so-called hero mistreats his sidekicks and staff. We hope the HPSC will be on our side here because this man cannot be allowed to continue to be a hero after this. Henceforth, I quit my job along with my girlfriend, Endeavor's head of PR. We've made the decision to quit together, and we won't be coming back while Endeavor's still in power. If whichever sidekicks takes over Endeavor's agency wishes to contact me though, I'm here to help you. You have my number. Thank you for your time." The news correspondent looked flabbergasted,
but nodded and handed off to the main news host. Thank you, Tachibana, for that insight. In a similar news, the Hero Commission has released a statement regarding the hero matter as it reads. We, at the Hero Public Safety Commission, would first like to formally apologize for disregarding these claims in the past. We wish to give our apologies to the Todoroki family for our poor actions regarding this situation in the past. As for the present and future, we will be making measurements to ensure that this case is taken to court. Until then, Endeavor's hero license has been temporarily revoked, and his children have all been temporarily relocated to better living conditions until their mother is able to take full custody. We would like to thank Ryoku for bringing this to our attention and thank the public for their consideration, the HPSC. As you see, Izuku turned away from the TV with a scoff. He'd wondered how the HPSC would take this. He'd half expected them to attempt to sweep this under the rug and do the least they could possibly to get away with it. It was obvious they were trying to get the public off their backs for ignoring this when it was reported before. It seems it was more beneficial to them to simply cut their losses, which made sense. Endeavor was probably quite expensive to keep on. He didn't have much public support before all of this. It was probably easier to just make Hawks a much more popular hero, number 2, and give the public what they wanted instead. Then Izuku remembered his video had been on national news. Mom! Hey guys! The written parts of the final exams start on Monday. Do you want to meet up on Saturday to study? Izuku asked, looking around at his group of friends where they sat together in the cafeteria. People were still staring and whispering, especially after the news reports.
Sure,
Kirishima grinned.
I was gonna spend the weekend studying anyway. Doing it with friends would be super manly.
We're free. I think Aizawa was just going to make us study anyway. Shoto shrugged, glancing over at Hitoshi, who nodded with his mouth full of rice. You guys should invite... Huh? Ah. You guys should invite Uraraka and Iida too. Didn't you agree to study with them last weekend, Shoto? Yes, I did. Thanks for the reminder. I'll talk to them.
You guys are on first name basis?
Kirishima asked, raising an eyebrow.
Since when?
Yesterday, Izuku smiled. Actually, I was going to talk to you guys about this as well, Kirishima. But I forgot after the shopping trip. How did that go, by the way? Izuku asked. Hitoshi snorted, almost spitting out rice. Surprisingly well. Hitoshi has a good fashion sense. Shoto, you came home with the least color-coordinated outfits I've ever seen. I think Dad's eyes were literally bleeding, and those trainers. Oh my god, you guys should be scared. What? Hitoshi blurted out after finishing his mouthful. I'm sure it's not that bad. It really is that bad. I'm sure you'll see for yourself on Saturday. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Izuku giggled. Anyway, you were going to tell Kirishima about the name thing, and you should probably inform him about your living situation too, or things might get a bit confusing. You're right. Shoto nodded. Kirishima, I'd like to you to call me Shoto. Izuku and Hitoshi are already doing so. It's mainly because I'd rather not be connected to my father that way. As for my living situation, I'm temporarily living with Aizawa and Yamada sensei, who are also my adoptive parents. Hitoshi cut in, and Kirishima looked surprised for a second, then nodded.
Alright, I'll keep that in mind. If you guys are all using first names now, you can call me Eiichiro.
He grinned.
Now where are we gonna meet up for study party?
Well, I was thinking of just holding it at my apartment, but if we're inviting Ida and Uraraka too. Oh, and I wanted to invite Mina and Kaminari. I agreed to help them out before as well. We should probably go somewhere bigger.
I'd offer my house, but people aren't really supposed to know about me being the son of pro heroes, so we can't do that, Hitoshi said.
I only live in an apartment too, so I can't really help. Sorry, guys.
We could always meet up in a park, Izuku suggested. There's one a few blocks away from my apartment building, which is really nice, and it has a Starbucks and an ice cream shop nearby.
Sounds pretty manly, dude. The weather's supposed to be pretty good on Saturday too.
Eiichiro nodded. Damn it. The outside world. Hitoshi groaned with an exaggerated sigh. As long as there's food, I'll be fine.
Izuku laughed and nodded. I'll ask my mom if she can make us some snacks. I'm gonna go see if Kaminari and Mina are okay to come real quick. I'll be back.
Make sure you get their phone numbers if they are. We can make a group chat.
Kirishima called after him.
Hey Shoto, do you have Uraraka's and Ida's numbers?
Yes, Shoto replied. They gave me them ages ago. When we were trying to hang out, they were trying to hang out with me. I'll text them to see if they are available.
Awesome!
Izuku created a new chat. Izuku added Shoto Todoroki, Hitoshi Shinso, Eiichiro Kirishima, Mina Ashido, and Tenki Kaminari to the group chat. Shoto Todoroki added Ochako Uraraka and Tenya Ida to the group chat. Ochako Uraraka, hello! Eiichiro Kirishima,
yo!
Mina Ashido, ew! Don't we have nicknames? Izuku Midoriya, I only just made the chat like 2 seconds ago. You can add nicknames if you want. Mina Ashido's, ooh yes! Mina Ashido changed Midoriya Izuku's name to Internet Meme. Mina Ashido changed Shoto Todoroki's nickname to Hot and Cold. Mina Ashido changed Hitoshi Shinso's nickname to Sleep? Don't know her. Mina Ashido changed Tenya Ida's nickname to Greased Lightning. Oh, Greased Lightning. Mina Ashido changed Tenki Kaminari's name to Pikachu. Mina Ashido changed Ochako Uraraka's nickname to Defying Gravity. Mina Ashido changed Eiichiro Kirishima's nickname to The Rock. Mina Ashido changed their nickname to Alien Queen. Alien Queen, much better! You'll like it? Greased Lightning. What is the meaning of my nickname? Internet Meme. It's the name of a song from a really, really old pre-Quark era film.
I think the song had to do with cars. Greased lightning. I see. Internet meme. Also, why is my name just internet meme? Alien Queen. Cause you're an internet meme. Internet meme. I am? Alien Queen. Yeah, see? Alien Queen sent an attachment. The attachment is a photo of Izuku from the sports festival with a flower crown and the text "Quirkless, not worthless" edited onto the picture. Internet meme. Oh, for fuck's sake, not that again! Okay, at least that one has a nice message. Actually, I must save that for later. Alien Queen. Oh damn! I didn't know the green bean could curse. Sleep. Don't know her. Sent a screenshot. Screenshot. Head statistician. Because I'm on the verge of a mental breakdown. Now get in the car, bitch. We're gonna pick up your son. Best editor. Question mark. Head statistician. Just meet me at his house in like half an hour. Best editor. Okay, goddamn, I'm coming. Nugget of information. This chat is providing me some great entertainment. Head statistician. Shut the fuck up, this is a dire situation. Best editor. Language, small child. Head statistician. You're only 14 days older than me, shut up! Nugget of information. I didn't know Sunshine Bean, blurred out, could act like this. Head statistician. You too, asshole! We're on a mission! End of screenshot. Sleep. Don't know her. Head statistician is Midoriya. Gah! Alien Queen. Gosh darn, Midoriya! Pikachu. Okay, didn't know he was capable of that. Confused smiley face. Greased lightning. Midoriya, I must ask you that you refrain from using such language. Internet meme. Oh my goodness, you guys are the worst. Not you either, I won't swear, okay? Greased lightning. Thank you, Midoriya. Anyways, we must go get to the actual purpose of this chat. Defying gravity. Yeah, guys, what's this for? Internet meme. Did Shoto not tell you? Alien Queen. Shoto, huh? Suspicious smirky face. Internet meme. No. He just asked us to call him by his first name because of the stuff with Endeavor. Alien Queen. Oh, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have assumed. Smiling cat smile. Crying cat smiley emoji. Hot and cold. It's fine. By the way, this nickname is the same as my Discord user. And no, I didn't tell them. Defying gravity. Yeah, he just kinda added us here, lol. Pikachu. Dude, you have Discord? Are you on Ryoku's server? Can I add you? Hot and cold. Yes, and sure. Pikachu. Gasping emoji. What about the rest of you guys? Alien Queen. Later. Anyways, Midoriya said he was planning a study party for the weekend, and this chat is for that. Greased Lightning. I'm glad that you're all being proactive in planning a study session. I must commend Midoriya and his friends for being the ones to organize this. I'll gladly help out in any way that I can. Pikachu. Yeah, I'm glad you organized this, Midoriya. I was getting kinda stuck on some stuff and I probably wouldn't have put much effort in without this. The Rock. Sorry for disappearing, guys. We can all help each other out with the stuff we're struggling on. Internet meme. Oh yeah, if you guys make a list of the stuff you need help with, we can go over it together. For the location, by the way, there's a park near where I live with a really nice picnic area, and it's by a Starbucks and an ice cream shop we can go to. What do you guys think? Defying gravity. Ooh, sounds nice. I'm definitely up for that idea. Smiley face. Alien Keen. Same! I'll bring us some snacks too. Pikachu. Awesome! I'll be there. Smiling cat face. Greased Lightning. Make sure you all come prepared and bring your things ready to study along, with enough money for Starbucks and or ice cream. Midoriya, do you have a time in mind for us to meet? Internet meme. I don't think we need a specific time since some of us will be getting the train and stuff, so I'd say around 11 a.m. Then we can spend the afternoon at the park. Does that sound right? Greased Lightning. That sounds perfectly reasonable. Alien Queen. I'll be there! Double smiley face. I'm super excited, guys! Pikachu. Yeah, I'll be there! Sleep. Don't know her. Should be doable. Hot and cold. Mm-hmm. The Rock. Yeah, totally, man! Defying gravity. I'll be there! Heart emoji. Internet meme. Awesome! See you guys in school tomorrow. I've gotta go do some stuff now. Bye! Hot and cold. Goodbye. Alien Queen. Bye! Double heart emoji. Internet meme went offline. Pikachu. So, can I get you guys Discords now? The Rock. Oh yeah, sure, dude. I'm at Crimson Riot Supremacy. Dot 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 dot. Dude! Dude! You're one of Ryoku's admins? The Rock. Oh, yes? Dude, that's so cool! I can't believe you never told us! The Rock. I guess it never came up. Pikachu. Anyone else here got secrets they want to share? Sleep. Don't know her. Well, Shoto knows Ryoku from the video and everyone thinks they're dating. Hot and cold. Hey Toshi, why would you even? Okay, well if you're gonna do that, then Hitoshi is Sleepy Cat 2014. Pikachu! Dudes! What the fuck? Greased Lightning. Kaminari, that language is not appropriate. Pikachu. You guys are seriously? God freaking damn it! Watch Ryoku be one of our classmates or something else stupid now, I swear! The Rock. Imagine that. Sleep. Don't know her. LMAO. It would be hilarious. Oh, Dad's calling me for dinner. See ya. Sleep, Don't Know Her went offline. Hot and Cold. Oh, I have to go too. Sorry, Kaminari. Hot and Cold went offline. Defying Gravity. That was something. Alien Queen. I cannot believe they'd be keeping something like that from us. Frowny face. Greased Lightning. You must respect our classmates' privacy. There is probably a reason they didn't tell us, and we should respect this by not telling everyone else. The Rock.
Yeah, I'd rather people don't know who I was, just so I didn't get a load of random people asking me stuff, you know? Also, I don't really want my identity on the internet. I doubt Shinso does either.
Alien Queen. Yeah, don't worry guys, we won't tell, promise. Pikachu. Yeah, I get it. I won't tell anyone. Don't worry. Smiley face. Greased Lightning. I'm sure they appreciate that very much. The Rock.
Yeah, guys, we really do.
Defying Gravity. Don't mention it. It's what friends do. Pikachu.
Yeah!
Welcome again, ladies and gentlemen and non-binary people. Or non-binary royalty, we can try that. And yes, a new update one day after. Isn't that great? Anyway, I really have been putting off the uploading kind of things because on the 28th was my birthday and I get to remodel my room, as I've mentioned in the Discord already. You really should join Ella's Discord. It's really great and there's chaos everywhere. And I get to get my cosplay atelier upstairs. So, get ready for more stuff. Anyways, I hope you have a really great time. Don't forget to hydrate, at least a little. We don't want Rhett and Ella and my lost and found to get angry at us. Especially me, for saying it's no needed. And if you like my content, please consider liking and subscribing. It would help out a great deal in reaching our goal of 500 subscribers. I can't believe we're getting that close already. Anyways, have a nice time of the day. And there's Cole signing off.